Imagine a sunset painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, casting long shadows across a clearing nestled between towering pine trees. The air is crisp with the scent of earth and pine needles, and a gentle breeze rustles through the leaves overhead. This is where our story begins, where two souls would find each other in the most unexpected of circumstances. Let me take you on a journey through the wilderness, where the boundaries between friendship and something more would blur under the vast canopy of stars. Alex had always been the adventurous type, the kind of person who found peace in the chaos of nature, who could navigate trails with nothing but instinct and a vague sense of direction. With sun-kissed skin and eyes that sparkled with mischief, Alex embodied the free spirit that many admired but few truly understood. Then there was Jamie, the methodical planner, the one who triple-checked reservation details and packed first-aid kits with military precision. Jamie's city upbringing was evident in the way he approached the outdoors, with equal parts fascination and trepidation, like someone admiring a beautiful but potentially dangerous animal from behind glass. These two had been friends for years, their relationship a comfortable dance of opposites attracting. But beneath the surface of their friendship ran an undercurrent of something deeper, an electric tension that neither had been brave enough to acknowledge. It was the kind of tension that manifested in lingering glances, in the way their hands would brush against each other and quickly pull away, in the comfortable silences that somehow said more than words ever could. The idea for the camping trip had come from Alex, of course. "You need to disconnect," Alex had insisted, watching Jamie hunched over a laptop one rainy Sunday afternoon. "When was the last time you saw the stars without city lights drowning them out?" Jamie had protested, citing deadlines and responsibilities, but deep down, the idea of escaping into the wilderness with Alex held an appeal that was difficult to resist. Perhaps it was the promise of adventure, or perhaps it was simply the prospect of uninterrupted time together, away from the distractions of everyday life. The planning phase had been a comedy of contrasts. Alex's idea of preparation involved throwing a sleeping bag and some trail mix into a backpack, while Jamie created spreadsheets of necessary supplies and researched the campsite with the thoroughness of someone planning an expedition to Antarctica. "We're going for 2 days, not 2 months, Alex had laughed, watching Jamie meticulously check off items from a list. "Better over-prepared than under-prepared," Jamie had replied, not looking up from the task at hand. Little did they know how prophetic those words would prove to be. The journey to the campsite was a 3-hour drive that felt both too long and not long enough. Confined in the close quarters of Alex's weathered Jeep, the air between them seemed charged with unspoken words. They filled the silence with playlists and conversations about everything and nothing, work stories, childhood memories, dreams for the future. Jamie found himself stealing glances at Alex's profile against the backdrop of passing landscapes, wondering if this trip would be like all their other adventures, or if something would finally shift between them. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, cell service disappeared, and with it, the last tethers to their everyday lives. The road narrowed, then turned to gravel, then became little more than a dirt path winding through increasingly dense forest. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Jamie asked, gripping the door handle as the Jeep bounced over a particularly rough patch. Alex just grinned, that wild, carefree smile that always made Jamie's heart skip a beat. "Trust me," Alex said, and despite all logical reasoning, Jamie did. When they finally reached the campsite, the sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon. The clearing was even more beautiful than the photos Jamie had studied online, a perfect circle of flat ground surrounded by ancient pines, with a small, clear stream babbling along one edge. "See? Paradise," Alex declared, jumping out of the Jeep with the enthusiasm of someone coming home after a long absence. Jamie followed more cautiously, taking in the vastness of the sky above them, the absolute silence broken only by birdsong and the whisper of wind through branches. It was beautiful, yes, but also overwhelming in its isolation. They were truly alone here, miles from the nearest person, with only each other to rely on. Setting up camp proved to be the first real test of their dynamic. Alex approached the task with casual confidence, while Jamie insisted on reading the instructions for the tent 3 times before even removing it from its bag. "It's not rocket science," Alex teased, already hammering stakes into the ground. "No, but proper structural integrity might keep us from getting soaked if it rains," Jamie countered, carefully measuring the distance between stakes. Their bickering was comfortable, familiar territory, but there was an undercurrent to it now, a heightened awareness of each other that made even the most mundane interactions feel significant. The tent, when finally erected, looked sturdy enough, though Jamie had doubts about its ability to withstand serious weather. One sleeping bag? Jamie asked, watching Alex unroll a single, albeit oversized, sleeping bag inside the tent. I thought you were bringing yours, Alex replied, looking genuinely surprised. It was on the list I sent you, Jamie said, feeling a flutter of anxiety. I must have missed it, Alex admitted, having the decency to look slightly embarrassed. But hey, this one's big enough for both of us if we need to share. It'll be like a sleepover. The casual way Alex said it, as if sharing such intimate space would be no big deal, made Jamie's cheeks flush with heat that had nothing to do with the evening sun. As dusk settled over the campsite, they set about making dinner. Alex had brought a small portable stove and, surprisingly, the ingredients for a rather ambitious campfire meal. I didn't know you could cook, Jamie remarked, watching Alex confidently chop vegetables on a makeshift cutting board. There's a lot you don't know about me, Alex replied with a wink that sent Jamie's heart racing. They worked together in the fading light, their movements becoming a choreographed dance around the campfire. When their fingers brushed as Alex passed Jamie a plate, neither pulled away immediately, and the moment stretched between them like taffy, sweet and full of possibility. Dinner was eaten cross-legged by the fire, their conversations growing deeper as the night darkened around them. They talked about childhood dreams, about disappointments and triumphs, about the paths not taken. I've always envied your certainty, Jamie admitted, watching the firelight play across Alex's features. You always seem to know exactly who you are. Alex's laugh was soft, almost sad. I'm not certain about anything, Jamie. I just pretend better than most. The vulnerability in that admission hung between them, creating a bridge across which deeper truths might travel. As they talked, the temperature began to drop, the warmth of the day giving way to the chill of a mountain night. Jamie shivered, pulling a jacket tighter around shoulders that suddenly seemed inadequate against the cold. We should probably turn in, Alex suggested, noting Jamie's discomfort. It'll only get colder from here. The prospect of entering the tent, of navigating the sleeping arrangements that had been looming over them since the discovery of the single sleeping bag, sent a different kind of shiver through Jamie. Inside the tent, the space seemed much smaller than it had during setup. Their movements became awkward, overly careful, as they changed into sleeping clothes and arranged their few possessions. The sleeping bag lay between them like a challenge. So, Jamie began, unsure how to proceed. So, Alex echoed, a smile playing at the corners of those lips that Jamie had definitely not been thinking about all evening. I can sleep outside the bag if you're uncomfortable, Alex offered, though the dropping temperature made this a less than appealing option. Don't be ridiculous, Jamie replied, summoning courage from some unknown reserve. We're adults. We can share a sleeping bag without it being weird. But as they both slipped into the confines of the sleeping bag, weird was exactly what it felt. Their bodies were pressed together by necessity, every movement amplified by proximity. Jamie lay rigid, hyper-aware of every point of contact between them, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, the occasional brush of feet. Relax, Alex murmured, voice close enough that Jamie could feel the warmth of breath against an ear. I don't bite. Unless you're into that. The joke, meant to diffuse tension, only heightened it, painting images in Jamie's mind that were decidedly not appropriate for the current situation. The zipper's digging into my side, Jamie complained after several minutes of uncomfortable shifting. Here, let me, Alex said, reaching across to adjust the zipper. Fingers brushed against Jamie's side in the process, sending a jolt of electricity through both of them. There was a moment of stillness, of held breath, before Alex spoke again. You know, zippers are optional, came the playful suggestion, laden with meaning that could be acknowledged or ignored, depending on Jamie's response. The words hung in the air between them, a bridge that could be crossed or burned. Jamie's heart pounded so loudly it seemed impossible that Alex couldn't hear it. What exactly are you suggesting? Jamie asked, voice barely above a whisper. In response, Alex's hand found Jamie's in the darkness, fingers intertwining with a certainty that belied the tremor Jamie could feel in them. I'm suggesting that maybe we stop pretending that this is just friendship, Alex said, the usual confidence tempered with vulnerability. I'm suggesting that maybe, out here where it's just us and the stars, we can be honest about what we want. The tent seemed to shrink around them, the world narrowing to the points where their bodies connected. Jamie's mind raced with possibilities and fears. What if this changed everything? What if it ruined the friendship that had become so essential? But beneath those fears was a longing that had been simmering for years, a desire that could no longer be contained. And what is it that you want, Alex? Jamie asked, finding courage in the darkness that might have been impossible in the light of day. Instead of answering with words, Alex shifted closer, closing the already small gap between them. The first kiss was tentative, a question more than a statement. But when Jamie responded, all hesitation evaporated like morning dew under the summer sun. The kiss deepened. Hands began to explore territory that had been forbidden until now, and the sleeping bag that had seemed so restrictive became a cocoon around them, separating them from the world outside and creating a universe of just two. Later, as they lay entwined, the zipper of the sleeping bag indeed forgotten, Alex traced patterns on Jamie's skin with gentle fingers. "How long?" Jamie asked, not needing to elaborate on the question. "Since that day at the lake 3 summers ago," Alex admitted. "You were laughing, water dripping from your hair, and I thought you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. How about you?" Jamie smiled into the darkness. "The Christmas party, 5 years ago. You were wearing that ridiculous sweater with the light-up reindeer nose, and somehow you still looked good. I knew then that I was in trouble." They talked through the night, sharing secrets and desires that had been kept hidden for too long. Outside, the wilderness continued its nocturnal symphony, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, the whisper of wind through pine needles. Inside, two people who had been orbiting each other for years finally allowed gravity to pull them together, colliding in a way that felt both inevitable and miraculous. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden, loud cracking sound from just outside the tent. Jamie froze, gripping Alex's arm with fingers that would likely leave marks. "What was that?" Jamie whispered, fear evident in every syllable. Alex sat up, listening intently. "Probably just a branch falling," came the reassuring response, though Alex reached for the flashlight just in case. Another sound followed, this one unmistakably the heavy footfall of something large moving through the underbrush. Without hesitation, Alex moved protectively in front of Jamie, a gesture that would have seemed unnecessary in any other context but felt right in this moment of vulnerability. "Stay here," Alex whispered, slowly unzipping the tent flap. "Are you crazy?" Jamie hissed, pulling Alex back. "You can't go out there." Their argument was rendered moot when a beam of light suddenly illuminated the tent from outside, followed by a cheerful voice calling out, "Hello there, campers. Just the forest ranger doing a check. Everything all right in there?" The relief was so intense it bubbled up as laughter, first from Alex, then from Jamie, until they were both clutching each other, trying to stifle the sounds of their mirth. "We're fine," Alex called back, voice still shaking with suppressed laughter. "Just got spooked by the noises." The ranger moved on after a brief exchange, leaving them alone once more, the tension of the moment broken but the intimacy of it lingering. "My hero," Jamie teased, once they were sure the ranger was gone. "Ready to face down wild beasts to protect my honor." Alex's expression softened, becoming serious in a way that was rare. "I would, came the quiet admission. Face down anything for you." The simplicity of the statement, the raw honesty of it, stole Jamie's breath away. In response, Jamie pulled Alex close, sealing the declaration with a kiss that promised the same in return. They slept eventually, wrapped in each other's arms, the sleeping bag now seeming perfectly sized for two people who had no desire for personal space. When morning came, filtering through the tent fabric and soft, golden light, they woke to a new reality, one where the boundaries of friendship had been redrawn, where possibilities stretched before them like the wilderness surrounding their small campsite. The awkwardness Jamie had feared was notably absent as they emerged from the tent into the crisp morning air. Instead, there was a comfortable intimacy, a sense of rightness that permeated every interaction. Alex built a small fire for coffee while Jamie prepared a simple breakfast, their movements around the campsite now in perfect harmony, as if they had been doing this dance for years rather than hours. So, Alex began, passing Jamie a steaming mug of coffee, their fingers brushing in a way that was now intentional rather than accidental. "What happens when we go back to civilization?" The question held all the complexities of their situation, friends becoming lovers, the potential reactions of their social circle, the practical considerations of how this would change their everyday lives. Jamie considered it carefully, watching the steam rise from the mug into the clear morning air. "I think," Jamie said slowly, "that what happens in the wilderness doesn't have to stay in the wilderness. Unless you want it to." The vulnerability in that last statement was painful, exposing fears that had been temporarily forgotten in the magic of the night before. Alex's response was immediate, reaching across to take Jamie's hand with a firmness that brooked no argument. "I've wanted this, wanted you, for too long to let it go now," came the fierce reply. "This isn't just a camping trip fling for me, Jamie. This is everything." The relief that flooded through Jamie was visible, shoulders relaxing, a smile breaking across features that had been tense with uncertainty. "Everything," Jamie repeated, the word both a question and an answer. They sealed this new understanding with a kiss that tasted of coffee and promise, of adventures yet to come and a partnership that would weather them all. They spent the rest of the morning exploring the area around their campsite, following the stream to a small waterfall that cascaded into a pool clear enough to see the smooth stones at the bottom. They waded in despite the chill, splashing each other like children, stealing kisses that tasted of fresh water and joy. Every touch now held new meaning, every glance an unspoken acknowledgement of the shift in their relationship. As they packed up the campsite, preparing for the journey back to their everyday lives, there was none of the sadness that often accompanies the end of an escape. Instead, there was anticipation, a shared excitement for what awaited them beyond the wilderness. The tent came down much faster than it had gone up, their movements now synchronized, anticipating each other's needs without words. The drive back was different from the journey out, filled with comfortable silences and conversations about the future, their future, together. They made plans for another camping trip, for dinners and movies and all the ordinary activities that would now be extraordinary because they would share them in this new way. Next time, I'm definitely bringing my own sleeping bag, Jamie declared, then added with a grin, but I probably won't use it. Alex laughed, taking one hand off the steering wheel to reach for Jamie's. Zippers are always optional when you're with me, came the playful response, a callback to the moment that had changed everything. As they drove out of the wilderness and back toward civilization, the connection between them felt as vast and enduring as the forest they were leaving behind, wild and beautiful and full of undiscovered paths waiting to be explored together. Months later, they would return to that same campsite, this time with 2 sleeping bags that would be zipped together from the start. They would laugh about their first trip, about the pretense and the hesitation and the fortunate mistake that had forced them to share such close quarters. "Best packing error I ever made," Alex would say, watching the firelight play across Jamie's features. And Jamie would agree, grateful for the wilderness that had given them the space to discover what had been there all along, a love as natural and necessary as breathing, as vast and beautiful as the star-filled sky above them. But that's a story for another time. For now, as they emerge from the forest and rejoin the world of cell phone signals and traffic lights, it's enough to know that sometimes the greatest adventures aren't found on mountain peaks or rushing rivers, but in the courage to cross the small but significant distance between 2 hearts that have been calling to each other all along. Total_char_count, 18,746.